This clip is from my show AFC North Talk that I do with Sonny, Ace, and J Rock. Make sure you guys check this clip out where we're talking about the AFC North. Also, if you want to see the full clip, it's available at AFC North Talk on YouTube. So check it out.
I remember saying here, Ace, to you, and where I am, right here in Maryland, there's a lot of Commanders fans. I remember saying, Ace, are you worried if it's 10-10 at halftime, right? And he said, nah, we have Burrow. And I was talking to somebody from the Commander side, and they were like, oh, Burrow played really good, right? And I said, he did. In my opinion, he did. But he definitely played hell of a game in the fourth quarter. In the first three, that offense did just enough to go and get field goals, but it couldn't convert. So I saw Washington basically converting touchdowns versus field goals. Touchdowns versus field goals. And my argument here, and this is what I want to hear from you, Washington does not have great corners, right? Washington pass defense is not great. Their D-line is pretty solid, but you guys were running. Like I was like, oh my God, Zach Moss is running. Not between the tackles, but on the outside rush. And I was like, okay, they're running. This should open even more the passing game, should lead into more touchdowns. And Washington's approach was, well, we're gonna bleed here, but we're not gonna allow those touchdowns. And offense, please save us. And it worked. And I was surprised because T. Higgins is there. We have Chase, Gesicki, everybody's there.
Outside of just the defense, they were out coached. I think Cliff Kingsbury coming in with the up-tempo offense.
Yeah, that
room just didn't have any sort of answer for it. And the way that the Commanders came out was as soon as the Bengals went down, punched them in the mouth, Jamar Chase touchdown, they hit us with a counter punch, right? They come back, they end up getting a touchdown. But the biggest thing on that drive was that they went for it on fourth down, right? The Commanders came out confident. A lot of people expected, me included, expected them to come out with this power run game. And they didn't really do that. They came out with this up-tempo offense. They came out taking shots. Lou Anarumo, for some reason, did not blitz Jaden Daniels in this game at all in the first half. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, are we going to try to do something against a rookie quarterback to try to confuse him? Are you going to throw in some exotic blitzes? Are you going to do anything to try to get to him? Because Trey Hendrickson in the first half just could not do anything. And as we know as Bengals fans, when Trey Hendrickson isn't getting anything, the entire defensive line isn't getting any kind of pressure. So to see them come out, like I expected it to be an issue with them running. I expected now outside of Austin Eckler was going crazy until he got a concussion in this game. But I expected it to be like a Brian Robinson kind of thing, that they were going to get yards on the ground. And I thought that they were going to exploit the defensive tackles that were out this game. The defensive tackles didn't even really do bad. It was the edge rushers. It was the secondary. It was sitting back in coverage. And Jaden Daniels just had his way with this team. And I feel like the Bengals never really played with a sense of urgency. So when we talk about the beginning, I bring up the field goals as well, because a lot of people just put it directly on the defense. But the way they came out, it was pretty clear that this was going to be a shootout. The way that up-tempo offense they were playing, right? Even when they got up points, they kept going up tempo. And it's like you can't get field goals in a situation where this team is and they're playing super aggressive. So when they started to get those field goals, you talk about Evan McPherson missing a field goal. We didn't pay Evan McPherson to miss field goals in those situations. I get what people are saying, no kicker is perfect, but that's one of the reasons that they paid Evan McPherson was to come through on that. I also felt like our coaching staff offensively wasn't aggressive enough. They didn't really go for it on fourth downs. They kind of played with this situation where they just were not realizing the situation. Like when you talk about the running, they did that because they stayed in too high shell most of the game, right? They gave up the Chase touchdown. That was one of the only times that they only played, one safety up there, one safety.
Ace, give me a second. You're breaking up for you too, Jerry, right?
What's that?
No, it's not breaking up for me.
No, that sounds pretty good on this end.
So it's me. Sorry. Go ahead.
They had the one safety deep. Anytime that they did that, Jamar Chase touchdown. So they kept running, and they were able to do things on the ground game. However, like when they're running, when you're down 15, I'm just like, what are you doing? Like you're not only losing to this team from a score standpoint, you're also racing against the clock. Like, you don't have that much time to start to run the ball. And then special teams coming out of the half, the last thing that you needed, or what you needed from the defense, was to try to slow this team down, which they weren't unable to do. And then you allow a 62-yard kick return from Austin Eckler. Like, every phase of this football game really didn't go the Bengals' way. Like, yes, they were able to put up points once they got rolling, but it was too little too late. Mm-hmm. And you let Jaden Daniels dictate whatever he wanted in this game. We're talking about a 91% completion percentage. And I mean, he's a good player, probably going to win Rookie of the Year, but you got to look at it. Like, are we doing something different? Are we going to make adjustments at halftime? After the half, they still couldn't do anything with the up-tempo offense. And then when they finally get these guys on the fourth down, Jaden Daniels just makes a play to Terry McLaurin for a game-sealing touchdown. So in this game, I feel like the Commanders were more aggressive than the Bengals. You would have thought that the Commanders were 0-2 the way that this game was being played and the energy that was being delivered. And you could just tell that the Commanders were not scared whatsoever of Lou Anarumo, this Bengals defense. They weren't backing down. They played with confidence. And to me, for me, I was like confused because the defense in the first two games was pretty solid, like for the Bengals. So I'm like, what is going on right now? From an offensive standpoint, they still, I don't think that there's much that I complain about except the field goals. Like the field goals early on, that's what I kind of had there. But at this point, it doesn't really matter. Like you're 0-3. 0-3 is 0-3, bro. Like the only thing that is kind of helping the Bengals somewhat is that the Ravens are 1-2 and the Browns are 1-2, but the Steelers are now 3-0. And I talked about it on the last show. The Steelers getting these wins over the rest of the division is helping them out. I don't know if you can come back from an 0-3 kind of situation, because to me, it's also apparent that the problems in the locker room from this offseason, them not paying Trey Hendrickson, him requesting a trade, them not paying T. Higgins, him requesting a trade, Jamar Chase and all of that, like it's now affected somewhat of the team chemistry. And you let guys go like DJ Reader and these guys, and now you're seeing the effects of that. Like, who's the leader in the locker room? I don't know. I don't know who the leader on this team is anymore. They let a lot of those guys go. Like, people give Joe Mixon all of this stuff, but Joe Mixon was a leader in the locker room. He was able to rally guys together. And to me, what I saw on the field was nobody was a leader out there, especially on defense. Everyone looked lost. They get called for the 12 man on the field. It was completely ugly from a defensive perspective, but from a leadership perspective, I didn't see anybody rally. And one of the biggest plays that pissed me off in the game was when they almost got the delay of game penalty. I'm like, bro, you're down 15. Why are you guys, walking to the line?
No, when they burned the timeout.
At all. This other team is up 15 and they're going to the line immediately. Like, what are you guys doing? And that's kind of been the thing for the Bengals outside of the Chiefs game. In the Patriots game, they didn't show a sense of urgency. In this game, they don't show a sense of urgency. You can't just show urgency when you're playing the Chiefs. Like we did that last year. We concentrated on the Chiefs last year. We finished last in the division. When you concentrate specifically on one team and you're not good enough for these other teams, you're going to be 0-3. And guess what? Now you got Andy Dalton coming to town. That's 2-1 against you. And that one loss was him not finishing the game. So, like, there's nothing else that Andy Dalton would love to do than take the Bengals to 0-4. So, like, where it stands now is you can't talk about, we almost beat the Chiefs. You can't talk about we should have won that game against the Patriots. You can't talk about we should have hit those field goals. You can't talk about refs or any of that. You got to talk about you're 0-3. And CTB, he doesn't need to say anything. Like, you got to play with it against the Chiefs because you made a play against Pat Mahomes. But you talking about that this team is a college offense, got your defense cooked. And like, bro, we don't have any room to talk right now. Like, this isn't 2021. This isn't 2022. You didn't make the playoffs last year. Until you have somewhat of a winning record, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear any sound bites this week from that Bengals locker room discrediting any kind of opponent. I don't want to hear them say anything about Andy Dalton. I don't want to hear them say absolutely anything about the Carolina Panthers this week because they don't deserve to. And sitting at 0-3, you are what your record is. And 0-3 is way different to me than 0-2 because I've seen them come back from 0-2. Never seen them thus far come back from 0-3. So we'll have to see how they play next week. But You can't have any of these. All right, we're going to dig ourselves out of this hole and we're going to get back because we've done it before. This is a completely new season, and they have to prove that they can dig themselves out before this thing is over.
Yeah, and like teams, I think the stat going back to like 1990, if you start 0-3, teams only make the playoffs like 2.5% of the time or something like that. And to build off of what you said about the defense, Ace, this ain't good. 30th in EPA per play. They are 29th in success rate. They are 29th in EPA per dropback defensively. That defense is getting cooked, and I don't know what the cause of that may be because like obviously Jaden cooked last night, went 21-23. He had more touchdowns than incompletions. That's absurd. But you're playing against Jacoby Brissett week 1, and then obviously Mahomes week 2 and everything. But you still, I'm not completely out on the Bengals just because they're the Bengals, and if anybody can overcome something like this, it would be a team, led by a good quarterback and a team that's been there, done that, been to a Super Bowl, all that jazz. But man alive, like the defense has been one of like the quiet, really big aspects of this team over the past few years. And now we're seeing what happens when that's not there. And that's a big problem. I mean, 30th in the NFL in EPA per play. Who are they worse? The only teams that are worse than them are the Rams and the Commanders right now. So credit to Burrow and the offense for picking it up because Burrow's 9th in the league in EPA for quarterbacks. It's not his fault that they lost. But they got to figure this thing out, and they got to do it quick. And I'm going to pull up their schedule. So they go Carolina. I think that they should win that game. If they start off 0-4, I don't care the rest of the way they're done. And then Baltimore. Now, I think the loser of that game, you could probably stick a fork in because the Ravens play the Bills next Sunday night. I don't think they're winning that game. If you're the 1-4 Ravens, sorry, Sonny.
1-3.
Oh, whatever. If the Ravens, after the Bengals game are 1-4 or whatever the hell it may be, and the Bengals can win 2 in a row and get to 2-3, now we're looking at a situation where one of those teams you can all but just say, all right, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. So next couple weeks, big weeks for Baltimore and Cincinnati.
So I thought I was going to be so right about this game because I had mentioned that the Bengals were going to win this game, but they're going to do it in John Cena-esque.
Oh, that's right. You did say that. You did say
I was saying that they were going to John Cena this whole game.
You said Burrow's the new Big Ben.
I felt so strongly about this that I was sending John Cena versus R-Truth pictures.
There was a lot of pictures in the group chat, yes.
Yeah. So they went up by like 14. I'm like, I'm not falling for it. This is like R-Truth hitting his signature on John Cena, and then we get all excited about it, and then it doesn't happen, right? And we're like, oh, yikes, Bengals. What's going on with the Bengals? All of this stuff, all of these takes we've had before, and we're going to get too excited about it, and it's going to end up being no. Well, then the Bengals, they did the thing, right, Jared? They did the thing. They scored in like 10 seconds. I'm like, oh, John Cena 5-knuckle shuffle. They about to come away with this. And then it was like 3rd and 6. You could just tell the pressure was getting to Washington at that point because they had a bad drive on that touchdown drive at the end of the game. They were almost about to get, I think they had like 2 penalties to start that drive. They ended up in a 3rd and long. They had 10 guys on the field on that last play. 10 guys on the field. Yeah, Troy Aikman or somebody's like, hey, I think there's 10 guys on the field.
I love when Aikman is just so like, Joe, I think they only got 10 there. I don't know. They snapped the ball. I guess we'll see what happens.
All right, he just let it on. Like it was just chaos going on in that play. Like pure Cliff Kingsbury mayhem going on. We got guys coming on late. A guy's running a motion there. He's not supposed to be in motion, but he got away with it because he was behind the line of scrimmage. He's just trying to get to his spot. And then Jaden Daniels heaves this ball up, and I'm thinking, there's no way.
Yeah, me too.
Right? There's no way that's going to, because I didn't think that it was going to be that McLaren was going to be open. What was happening a lot in that game was that, like, McLaren was open, but Jaden just was, like, way off with these footballs at times.
Yep.
This thing was on target, and then, like, Terry McLaurin just hit a gear on that corner and scored all that. And I was like, wow, that's Jon Stewart, SummerSlam, coming in with the steel chair, giving them like, wow, I haven't been this surprised by WWE booking in a long time. That's right? Like
that's Big Show ruining the cash in.
Yeah, that is wow, I might have to tune in to Monday Night Bengals, okay, for the first time, because that was not something that I expected. They really did that to them. Yeah, here's what's concerning about this game if you're the Bengals defense. And look, I'm not going to make too much of it because it is a bad game and they weren't as bad versus these other two teams that they were, but they do have issues that continue to pop up. And part of those issues is just the inconsistency with this defense, right? Like, I think that's the Bengals' biggest problem. They aren't a consistent team, drive in, drive out. Like, offensively, get a completely different team in the second half of this game than you do get in the first half of this game. Like, easy finishing these drives, second half. First half, don't know what they're doing. Like, Joe Burrow turns into a completely different quarterback in the first half, trying to finish these drives, not being accurate. Like, he had a couple chances to get a touchdown there in the first half. He doesn't get it. So it's the consistency with the Bengals. It's always been an issue, but the thing that's been able to hold them down is that the defense was always consistent. That's what held them down in 2021. That's what held them down in 2022. The issue with the Cincinnati Bengals this year is that the defense is not consistent. Some weeks they're fine. Some weeks you're giving up 92%. And look, I know everybody's making a big deal of, oh my God, Jaden Daniels got 92% on you. Here's what you should be concerned about. You let Cliff Kingsbury throw down the field.
I knew you were going to bring Kingsbury. I knew it.
Cliff Kingsbury was seeing stuff where he's like, nah, I'm going to throw down the field. He didn't throw down the field with Pat Mahomes. But he felt like he could throw down the field against you. And that is a concern. Like, all things, like if Cliff Kingsbury runs on you, if you give up a lot of yak to Cliff Kingsbury, okay, you just had one of those days. But they was attacking you. And if Cliff Kingsbury is like comfortable attacking you downfield, I think he sees something in there that can be exploited and replicated there by a lot of other offenses. And I think that's the big concern with the Bengals. Look, they got Joe Burrow. They got Jamar Chase. We saw how electric they can be in this game. They're going to win some games down the road. They're going to beat the Carolina Panthers more than likely, and they're going to be over 500. They're not going to be an absolute disaster, right? It's a very long season. But if we're looking at the bigger overall goal, because the Bengals aren't a team that are fine with just making the playoffs, right? Like, this is a team that's supposed to be in competition for a Super Bowl. I think the big concern for the Bengals is like, hey man, do you have it there consistently on defense enough to be able to make up for what's always existed with the offense? And offensively, like, can you make up for the defense not being consistent this year? Like, that's the big thing. Like, can Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor, and usually it takes running the ball to be consistent on offense, but we know how Zach don't like doing that. But I saw some stuff with the Bengals. I'm like, man, they could be a dangerous team and a dangerous, consistent team offensively, because like those tight ends look great for the Cincinnati Bengals. Iosivas looks spectacular. I'm furious that you guys have Burton and Iosivas, by the way. Pounded the table for both of those guys in the draft.
I'll make a bold proclamation for you, Ace. I think they win their next three. I think it'll be 500 by week 7.
Whoa. I don't know about the next three. I think there's an L in the middle of the
play the Ravens.
They play the Ravens the next three? In the middle of that. Yeah. I think they go Panthers, Ravens, Giants in the next 3. I think they win all 3 of those.
It depends on which Derrick Henry shows up.
That's the thing. Like, it could be a very similar game that the Ravens had against Dallas, where they knew that they could just run it down their throats and Dallas couldn't stop it. So that could be a big old problem there. But at the same time, I think that the Bengals have a much better offense than Dallas and is going to be able to keep up if that is the case. We even saw Dallas storm back in the fourth quarter with, who was it? Devontae Turpin, however that, whatever.
Yeah.
What
Devontae Turpin,
yeah,
Philadelphia Stars legend, USFL All-Pro.
He had a score there. They did